You've cleaned up your diet. You've replaced chips with nuts, added seeds to your smoothies, and followed every article that tells you what a healthy man should eat. But here's a question nobody's asking. What if some of those seeds, yes, the ones sitting in your kitchen right now, are quietly draining your testosterone, interfering with your ability to focus, recover, and perform? This isn't a scare tactic. It's science. And after over 30 years working with men in their 40s, 50s, and beyond, I've seen how something as small as a seed can slowly chip away at your energy and vitality, without you even knowing it. In this video, I'll walk you through 3 common seeds that seem healthy on the surface, but when consumed the wrong way, can disrupt hormonal balance and leave you wondering what happened to your drive. And if you're the kind of man who wants the full truth about your health without gimmicks or guesswork, consider subscribing to the channel. I promise to give you real answers that matter. Let's begin. So how exactly can something as simple as a seed affect something as complex as male vitality? To answer that, we need to start with the fundamentals. At the core of a man's energy, focus, muscle tone, and yes, his sexual health is a hormone called testosterone. It's not just a number on a lab report. It's a key player in how you wake up, how you move, how you think, and how you connect with the world around you. But testosterone doesn't operate alone. It works in harmony with other systems: circulation, brain chemistry, metabolism. And as you age, this delicate balance becomes easier to disrupt and harder to rebuild. Now here's where food enters the picture. Certain nutrients can support healthy testosterone production. Zinc, magnesium, healthy fats, these all help. But there's another side to this story. Some foods, particularly those high in plant-based compounds called phytoestrogens, can interfere with hormone signaling. Others may indirectly lower testosterone by promoting chronic inflammation or disrupting liver metabolism. And some of the worst offenders, they come disguised as health foods. Seeds, for example, are often rich in fiber and healthy fats. But depending on the type and the amount you consume, some of them may introduce compounds that subtly compete with testosterone or create conditions in your body that suppress its production. It doesn't happen overnight. You won't feel it in one meal, but over months or years the effects add up. Lower energy, more belly fat, less motivation, slower recovery, and yes, difficulty with performance when it matters most. In my clinic, I've seen countless men come in feeling off. They're eating clean, exercising, even supplementing, but they're missing this one key connection between certain foods and their hormonal health. That's why today's video matters. Because the more you understand the mechanics of how your body works, the more power you have to change it. Not with hype, not with shortcuts, but with knowledge and the right actions at the right time. So let's break down the 3 specific seeds that could be silently working against you. You might be surprised by how common they are, and how easily they can be replaced once you know what to look for. Let's begin with the first, and perhaps the most controversial seed on our list: soy. Now I want to be very clear, this is not an attack on soy. It's not about fear. Soy is a staple food in many cultures. It contains protein, fiber, and important minerals. In moderate amounts and in certain forms, it can absolutely be part of a balanced diet. But for men, especially men over 40, there's something about soy that deserves a closer look. Soybeans, and especially soy-based snacks like soy nuts, are naturally high in compounds called isoflavones. These are a type of phytoestrogen, which means they are plant-derived molecules that can mimic the effects of estrogen in the human body. They're not identical to human estrogen, but they're close enough to bind to estrogen receptors and influence hormonal signaling. Why does this matter for men? Because as testosterone declines naturally with age, anything that interferes with the body's hormonal messaging can tip the scale even further out of balance. And that's exactly where excess phytoestrogens come into play. When you consume large amounts of soy-based foods, especially in concentrated or processed forms like soy protein isolate, soy milk, or soy nuts, you're potentially introducing a steady stream of estrogen-like compounds into your system. This doesn't mean one serving of tofu will ruin your hormones, but in men who are already on the edge hormonally, whether due to age, stress, poor sleep, or other factors, phytoestrogens may be enough to push testosterone levels further down, or at least blunt the body's natural androgen response. Let me share a story that might sound familiar. I once worked with a patient named Michael. He was 52, active, and genuinely trying to take care of himself. He had recently adopted a plant-based diet after a health scare in the family, and was doing what he thought was best, cutting out red meat, switching to soy protein shakes, eating roasted soybeans as a snack, even adding soy milk to his coffee. 6 months in, Michael came to see me because something felt off. He wasn't gaining muscle despite working out. He was sleeping poorly. His energy was low. He described a kind of flatness that he couldn't shake. We ran a full hormonal panel. His testosterone was well below the optimal range for his age, and more importantly, his free testosterone, the active form, was significantly suppressed. At the same time, his sex hormone-binding globulin, SHBG levels were elevated. SHBG is a protein that binds to testosterone in the blood and makes it inactive. High SHBG paired with increased phytoestrogens often creates that drained, unmotivated feeling in men. We didn't jump to conclusions, but we made some changes. Michael didn't have to abandon soy entirely, but we dialed it back. We cut the soy protein shakes, replaced the soy nuts with almonds and walnuts, and suggested fermented soy foods instead, like tempeh or miso, which have a different impact on hormone metabolism due to fermentation. We also added zinc and vitamin D-rich foods, supported his sleep, and worked on stress management. 3 months later, Michael was back in my office, not because something was wrong, but because he felt like himself again. His labs reflected that too. His free testosterone was up nearly 25%, and most importantly, he had his spark back. Now, to be fair, not every man reacts to soy the same way. The research on soy and testosterone is mixed. Some studies suggest little to no effect, especially with moderate intake. Others, particularly in men who consume soy in high quantities or already have hormonal vulnerability, show more noticeable changes. A comprehensive review published in Fertility and Sterility looked at over 30 studies and found that while moderate soy intake may not drastically reduce testosterone in all men, certain patterns, like chronic high intake and certain genetic sensitivities, do correlate with lower androgen activity. Here's what I want you to take away from this. It's not about demonizing soy. It's about understanding your body's current hormonal state and adjusting your food choices to support, not suppress, your vitality. If you're eating soy occasionally in natural forms, like edamame or miso soup, you're probably fine. But if you're using soy as a main source of protein, especially in processed forms or multiple times a day, and you're noticing symptoms like low energy, poor libido, or increased fat around the midsection, it might be time to reassess. Your body is always giving you feedback, and food is more than calories. It's chemistry, it's communication, and as men age, precision matters more than ever. The truth is, there's no one-size-fits-all solution. But when it comes to maintaining strong testosterone levels, even subtle choices, like which snacks you keep in your pantry, can have lasting impact. And that brings us to the next seed, one that's become a darling of the health world but carries its own hormonal risks when misunderstood. While soy often gets the spotlight in conversations about hormones, there's another seed that tends to fly under the radar, quietly occupying space in health blogs and kitchen shelves alike. That seed is flaxseed. You've probably seen it sprinkled on smoothies, mixed into oatmeal, or pressed into oil. It's been labeled a superfood for its high fiber content, its heart-healthy fats, and its digestive benefits. And yes, flax does contain valuable nutrients, like alpha-linolenic acid, ALA, an omega-3 fatty acid, and lignans, which are antioxidants. But once again, the story doesn't end there. Flaxseed is one of the richest dietary sources of lignans, a class of plant compounds that, like soy isoflavones, belong to the broader family of phytoestrogens. These compounds have a molecular structure similar to estrogen, and in the human body, they can mimic or modulate estrogen activity depending on the hormonal context. Now, here's where things get nuanced. Some researchers have explored the use of lignans for potential health benefits, particularly in postmenopausal women. But for men, especially those dealing with already borderline testosterone or symptoms of hormonal imbalance, the picture is a bit more complicated. In some men, high intake of flaxseed has been associated with reduced levels of dihydrotestosterone, DHT, a potent form of testosterone that's closely tied to libido, muscle density, and sexual function. Let me share a real story that stayed with me. A man named David, 46, came into my clinic feeling what he described as chemically flat. He wasn't depressed in the classic sense, but something felt off. His motivation had dipped, workouts weren't giving him the same pump, and he'd quietly lost interest in intimacy. His diet was clean, almost too clean. Oatmeal with flax every morning. Green smoothies with flaxseed oil. Flax crackers for snacks, all natural, all heart-healthy. But when we ran his labs, his DHT levels were surprisingly low. His total testosterone wasn't terrible, but his free testosterone, the kind your cells can actually use, was significantly under range. We ruled out thyroid and liver issues, and eventually I asked him to remove flax entirely for 90 days. That's it, no other changes. 3 months later, David came back reporting more energy, deeper sleep, and as he joked, a little more swagger. His blood work agreed. DHT levels rebounded. Free testosterone came back into the normal range. It wasn't dramatic, but it was enough to feel like himself again. And again, just like with soy, the science supports this experience, at least in certain cases. A study published in the Journal of Medicinal Food found that men who consumed flaxseed daily showed a significant decrease in serum androgen levels, particularly DHT. And while more research is needed to understand exactly who is most sensitive, the mechanism makes sense. Lignans can increase SHBG and reduce the bioavailability of active testosterone. That doesn't mean flax is bad, but it does mean context matters, especially for men with existing hormone issues or symptoms like low libido, fatigue, or mood swings. So here's my guidance. If you're using flax occasionally, in small amounts a couple of times a week, it's unlikely to be a problem. But if flax has become a daily staple, especially in multiple forms, whole seeds, ground, oil, you may want to take a step back and observe how your body responds when you scale it down. And one more thing, flaxseed needs to be ground to be absorbed properly. Whole seeds mostly pass through your system undigested. That's not just a nutritional detail. It's a reminder that even when eating healthy, how you eat matters as much as what you eat. Remember, your hormones aren't static. They respond to your environment, your stress levels, your sleep, and yes, even to the foods you choose each day. Flax may work well for some, but for others, especially men with low testosterone symptoms, it can be a hidden factor worth addressing. Food is powerful. It's your chemistry set. And once you understand how certain foods interact with your body, you're no longer just following trends. You're making informed decisions that align with your biology. Now that we've covered soy and flax, two of the most estrogenic seeds in popular health culture, let's turn to the third one on our list. This next seed may not mimic estrogen, but it can wreak havoc in a completely different way. By throwing off the body's inflammatory balance, damaging blood flow, and ultimately disrupting testosterone at its source. Let's talk about sunflower seeds. Compared to soy and flax, sunflower seeds are not typically associated with hormones. They do not mimic estrogen, and they do not contain phytoestrogens in meaningful amounts. But they can still affect testosterone, just in a more indirect way. Let us take a step back. Hormones do not function in isolation. They are deeply influenced by your body's internal environment, especially levels of inflammation, nutrient balance, and circulation. Sunflower seeds, although nutritious in certain respects, can disrupt that environment when consumed in excess or in heavily processed forms. Here is what you need to know. Sunflower seeds are rich in omega-6 fatty acids, specifically linoleic acid. These are essential fats, and our bodies need them. But balance is key. Today, the modern diet contains far more omega-6 than omega-3, leading to a ratio that promotes chronic inflammation. A healthy balance might be 2-to-1. Many men today are consuming 15 or even 20 times more omega-6 than omega-3. This imbalance fuels systemic inflammation. Over time, inflammation increases cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone. Chronically elevated cortisol suppresses testosterone, interferes with restful sleep, and slows metabolism. Inflammatory stress also impairs endothelial function, which affects blood flow to critical areas of the body. That is where sunflower seeds come in. When raw and consumed in moderation, sunflower seeds provide valuable nutrients like vitamin E, magnesium, and selenium. But most packaged sunflower seeds are roasted, salted, and often flavored with additives. Many are also cooked in refined vegetable oils, which further increase omega-6 intake and pro-inflammatory load. Now let me share a real-world example. Jard, age 59, came to see me after months of low energy, stubborn weight gain, and a sense that his batteries never fully charged. His meals were generally healthy, but each afternoon he had a habit, eating an entire bag of flavored sunflower seeds during his walk. When we examined the nutrition label, it was clear. That daily snack alone contributed nearly double the recommended selenium intake, along with excess sodium and a heavy dose of omega-6 fats. Jard's omega-6 to omega-3 ratio was extremely high, and his inflammatory markers reflected that. We made simple changes. He replaced the sunflower seeds with a small portion of pumpkin seeds and added fatty fish to his weekly routine. In 6 weeks, his labs improved modestly, but more importantly, he felt stronger, lighter, and more alert. Sunflower seeds were not the problem, but the quantity, preparation method, and lack of dietary balance made them part of the issue. This is a pattern I see often. Many men assume that eating something labeled natural or healthy is always beneficial. But food is chemistry. It interacts with your body in specific ways depending on the rest of your diet, your activity level, and your hormonal profile. If you enjoy sunflower seeds, there is no need to eliminate them entirely. Just be selective. Choose dry-roasted or raw versions, avoid flavored or oil-cooked varieties, and keep your portions reasonable. Above all, be mindful of your omega-3 intake. Without adequate omega-3s to balance inflammation, even healthy fats can become part of a hormonal imbalance. Testosterone does not decline overnight. It is influenced by thousands of small choices over time, including the foods you eat when you are not thinking about it. Now that we have explored how soy, flax, and sunflower seeds may affect male hormones in different ways, let us move to a few essential takeaways, and what you can begin doing today to support healthy testosterone and overall vitality. So here is what I want you to take away from all of this. The foods we choose, especially the ones we consider healthy, can either support or slowly undermine our vitality. Not because they are inherently bad, but because context matters. Your age, your hormonal profile, your stress levels, and your daily habits all determine how your body responds to what you feed it. Soy, flax, and sunflower seeds are not dangerous in isolation. Each has nutrients worth recognizing. But for men, especially those over the age of 40, these seeds can introduce subtle hormonal shifts that build over time. You may not feel it after one serving, but week after week, month after month, the impact accumulates. And if you have been feeling more tired than usual, if your drive has faded, if you have noticed changes in mood, recovery, or intimacy, it is worth looking at everything. Not just your supplements or your workouts, but even the smallest items in your kitchen. Because your hormones are listening, and they respond to the quietest inputs. Now, this is not about fear. It is about clarity. About making informed decisions and taking back ownership of your health. You do not need a complex diet or a list of forbidden foods. What you need is awareness, precision, and a willingness to course correct when something is not working. Here is what I recommend. Start small. Reassess your daily habits. If you are eating soy every day, scale it back. If flax is part of every meal, take a break and observe. If sunflower seeds are your go-to snack, look at the labels and consider alternatives. Then, support your body in the ways that matter. Quality sleep, daily movement, nutrient-dense meals, and emotional connection. Testosterone is not just a hormone. It is your clarity, your strength, your voice in the world. Do not settle for less. And if this message resonated with you, if you found value in understanding how your body works, I invite you to subscribe to this channel. Here, we do not chase trends. We pursue truth. And we help men step into the second half of life with more clarity, more energy, and more purpose than ever before. Take care, and I will see you in the next video.